Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and I am making this video today to go over what we've seen so far in the different regions. This is going to be like the video from last week where I went over every major, well, depends on what you consider major region, and just give some of my thoughts about the matches that we saw, just as a way to like keep up with the number of games that there are and everything is kind of tough sometimes. So it'll be helpful for some people to just get a quick, not a quick video, but I've done some of the work for you. So let's just go through this. So first up, we can talk about the matches that we saw in the LCS this week. So 100 Thieves against C9 and Evil Geniuses against Team Liquid. The finals is going to happen probably while I'm recording some of my videos today. So let's just do that real quick, because like I was talking to some people about the Infinity Edge podcast and like what they thought about it, and so far we've gotten some pretty good feedback, but apparently there were one or two people who were annoyed with the lack of stats that were being used, and I guess we should probably just get that out of the way first. Most of these statistics in League of Legends are bad statistics. They're just not predictive. They don't really tell us anything about a team's chances to win. They tell us about teams that have won or have lost. They're not predictive in almost any way in terms of results of a match, but it can tell you how a team will score in a win or score in a loss, but they're not going to tell you which team is going to win a match. Outside of the fact that like the team that wins more is going to have better stats, so the stats are going to say the team that wins more is better, which is that's just obvious. It's not like in baseball where you can have teams with actual low runs scored, and that's important because you're actually scoring points. In League of Legends, kills have next to, well, not nothing, but kills are not a significant metric from game to game. Like inside of a game, if you have more kills than your enemy, yeah, you're probably going to win the game. But if you average 10 kills and you go up against a team that averages 20 kills, it's not necessarily going to tell us anything about what team should win. One example of that was the match yesterday, KT against Nongshim. Nongshim has been the lower kill score team in general, I believe, and like in their wins, the reason their wins look like the way they do is because they're generally low kill score team, and in losses, they're not going to continuously fight every single objective. So again, we can get some information from stats, like maybe it points towards game style or something, but it's not going to tell us anything that we can't figure out about a team from watching the game. Anybody with a pair of eyes can watch Nongshim play and realize that Peanut is really the pace decider because it comes from the jungle. So maybe there will be statistics that help us identify these types of players, but I haven't found any statistics that I'm in love with yet. Now there are, at least in regards to professional matches and how they play out, there are a lot of great statistics that could be used for analyzing the game itself and items and all these kinds of things, but people aren't interested in that right now. Just teams really don't do that. And I'm not going to get into that, but it's just not really being used that way. So just think about a sport like baseball. Obviously, there have been like quote unquote statistics for a long time, but the better statistics have only been developed within the past 20 years, and that can actually create a large competitive advantage. So I understand why people want statistics. It makes them feel better about the plays that they're making, but it's not going to help you identify. At least I don't think so. It's not going to help you identify teams like underdogs that have a better chance to win because their kills per loss are really good. Like I just don't understand how those statistics would bear themselves out. And if anybody wants to explain to me why I'm wrong, I'd be more than happy to watch a video on it or listen to a well thought out argument. But if you're just going to comment like, I wish they used more stats or something, there's not much weight that I can put in that personally. I will try to incorporate some of the stats, either to tell you why they should be used or shouldn't be used moving forward. I'm going to try to do that. But it's just so much extra time and effort to do something that I just don't really believe in myself. And it's really just for League of Legends. I believe in stats and like the impact of statistics, but I don't see how they're really related as much to League of Legends. I just don't see it personally. Um, but yeah, I'm willing to talk more about that in the future. So 100 Thieves against C9. What we saw in this match was 100 Thieves who came into this match. A lot of people were thinking that 100 Thieves was going to win, which is surprising. The sports books obviously more intelligent than the people on the analyst desk. They had Cloud9 as a favorite, and Cloud9 should have been the favorite. They're going to win this series a majority of the time. Now people will probably say, oh well, they didn't look good so far in the LCS tournament. They haven't been convincing in wins. They've looked bad in losses. Like, that's what we expect. Winning teams look good. Losing teams look bad. Teams who are supposed to win and don't have convincing, gigantic wins, some people will think that they look worse. But at the end of the day, the result is the only thing that matters. So C9 in Game 1 played a Kindred composition. It was really difficult for them to play this match because they had a losing lane top lane, and they were trying to scale up to get Aphelios and Kindred into spots where Lulu and Orianna can really assist them carry team fights, but they just never had the opportunity to do that, and that's one of the reasons why it's tough to draft into late game team compositions, because you need the early game to go well enough. Otherwise, Kindred's not going to be able to get marks in the enemy jungle, and that's basically what happened in this game. Game 2 was a little bit of a slower game, low kill score game. This could turn into a farm matchup when you have Udyr against Nidalee. And again, we see something like this, Seraphine Taric. Like, can it work theoretically? Yes. But is it really the way that you want to play a professional League of Legends match when the other team is going to have a mid laner who is looking to go into side waves and accelerate the game? Like, can you pull off Seraphine Taric and hit that inflection point in the mid game when the other team is going to play aggressive and try to attack you? Because that's really what you have to do against these shielding compositions, is just make sure that you get out in front of the item scaling. And not only did they do that, but they also had scaling threats of their own with Ryze. And I know people hate Renekton, but Renekton's actually pretty good right now for a few reasons. I've said this in the past, Renekton is the kind of champion that is going to do their job regardless of how they've done so far in the game. If they're fed, then they can also just kill the enemy backline on their own. And also in the Moonstone meta, their W eliminates shields. So it is not the only... it doesn't make Renekton overpowered, but it's just another tool in the toolkit. So that is pretty good. Going into Game 3, a lot of people were thinking, oh, maybe 100 Thieves is just going to sweep them. If you thought C9 should win the match before the series started, you should have been comfortable going into Game 3 down 0-2, in my opinion. Not comfortable in the sense that like you think that they never lose the series, but you have to know that it's very possible for C9 to make a comeback because they are a better team than 100 Thieves in the long run. And I don't know how anyone who watched this series could say otherwise. So in Game 3, we get another spot where we have a Moonstone champion. So we had Lulu in the top lane. This time they had Udyr instead of Kindred. I think that's a big difference because Udyr can put out a lot of pressure in the early and mid game if he has to, or he can farm. So he has two ways of playing the game. Kindred, it's more difficult. It's just a more difficult play style to play. The upside is higher, which is why it is okay for teams to play it. But you also look worse when you're losing as Kindred. Although Udyr can have games where he looks completely useless as well in a loss. The one thing I love from this game is Senna Tahm Kench. I think that Senna is being underutilized right now. In a recent patch, she was given a buff, so now Senna is going to be pretty popular. Another reason why Senna is good is against things like Kai'Sa and Samira. She will be able to harass them in the early game while they're CSing. There's always going to be the potential of being all-in, so somebody like Tahm Kench gets rid of a lot of that threat. So it's just a good combination. Game 4, the C9 won this one relatively easy. And it's funny because they played uh, they played Twisted Fate against Demonte. I don't know about the set mid. We've seen it a few times recently. Just I don't think it's very good anymore. Set's been nerfed a bunch of times since it was possible to do it last season. But Cloud9 wins this game, a low kill score of 14 kills, and then going into the last game with very similar team composition, now they have 26 kills, 26-5. So there's not a lot for me to say in regards to the team's play styles. Like, I am going to make some notes about 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves, the thing that teams who are scouting 100 Thieves should know is that Demonte is a player who wants to have global champions that goes to side lanes. Everybody knows that going into this match. Everybody knew that was going to happen. How do you beat that? You attack the champion. You look for a good mid matchup, get hybrid damage out of your mid and your jungle, and then just continuously try to kill that champion to limit their impact on the side lanes. So these are some stats that I'm going to take a look at later. But I'm going to say Demonte global player. And I know it's obvious. I'm not trying to say anything that you don't know. But 100 Thieves at their best, that's 100 Thieves at their best is when they have Demonte on these types of champions. But what else can they do? Because right now it looks like Demonte, Nemesis, they're similar players in terms of how they approach the game. Nemesis doesn't have a team right now. And personally, I don't think that Demonte is a bad player relative to a lot of the other mid laners in the LCS. But, I mean, is this guy going to win a world championship? No. Is this guy going to win a North American championship? Probably not. He's not going to be the reason why it happens. And then Cloud9, there's nothing to say. I think they can play multiple play styles, which is part of the reason why they're so good. And then in the other match, we had Evil Geniuses against Team Liquid. And with Evil Geniuses against Team Liquid, yes, Team Liquid is obviously the better team, and their team is playing much better right now. So let's take a look at some of the stuff in Pick Ban that happened that may impact how the games go. So, like I said, I think Senna Seraphine seems like a good combination to me. Udyr against Olaf seems fine, but everybody continuously picking Gnar into these bad matchups or allowing the other team to counterpick them, it's just kind of insane to me. Like, I don't understand why a team would do that. Like, I play a lot of Gnar, and I know how it feels to get beat under a tower because you just get dove and there's nothing for you to do. So if you just opt into very similar team compositions multiple games in a row, when you have a Gnar who just gets a target put on their back, like, how do you expect to win? And I know that Impact said that he thinks that Gnar is underrated right now somehow, but everybody has strategies that can beat the Gnar. So I don't know if Impact actually has a good reason for it, or if Impact just sees other professional players playing Gnar, or if it has a lot of success in solo queue. I just don't get it. That's got to be pretty frustrating for the coach. Because if you're the coach of Evil Geniuses and you're saying, we shouldn't be playing Gnar, but the players are saying let's play Gnar, that would be a pretty tough situation. And then again, the Thresh in the first two games was pretty good. It wasn't the reason they were winning games. Like, it wasn't the only reason they were winning games. And then the last game, they take away the Gnar, which I don't understand why you'd really feel like you need to do that. But it was just an easy win for Team Liquid. So let's think about how this may impact what we thought about teams so far. So personally, I still have C9 number 1. I expect them to win today over Team Liquid. Team Liquid is in second place. I think they're in a similar tier to TSM. TSM has not looked good yet. And this is a spot where I think that the statistics right now will tell you Team Liquid is obviously the better team. And then they'll give you some reasons about, like, they have better goal differential at 15 and all these other kind of things. Not every team plays around those kinds of metrics. Like, you can intentionally draft against that metric. So I just really don't see the value in that. But yeah, Team Liquid and TSM, I think when it's all said and done, they'll be on the same tier. That really hasn't changed. If anything, I'll be putting TSM down before I put Team Liquid up into C9's tier. And this tier list is not really supposed to tell me who is going to win every single matchup. It's supposed to tell me, like, based on talent, who's going to win if these two teams play each other 100 times. Or something more like that. Or, like, what do I think is going to happen in the future, like a couple months down the road. Not necessarily, like, who is going to win a matchup between these two teams right now. So, like I said, if anything, TSM is going to go from A to B. But it's important, I think, to have C9 alone on their own. Perks hasn't looked good yet. Like, that's what I don't think people realize with the whole statistics argument. It's like, yeah, Perks has looked bad. Perks has died a lot. They're still winning. So Perks may be actively contributing to some of their losses or giving away some of their gold leads, but this is not the peak of Perks. It's not like Perks is out there playing really well and losing. Perks is playing poorly and still winning. So once Perks wakes up, for lack of a better term, I still think they're going to be the best mid laner in the LCS and be dominant. I think that could happen today. I think Perks can come out and just beat Jensen pretty badly. Because Perks Blabber against Santor and Jensen, I think the Perks Blabber side is obviously much better long term. But that's something that we'll have to watch out for. So now let's get into some of these statistics that I was going to take a look at. And I'm just going to try to speak to them pretty quickly. I'm not going to deep dive into a lot of them. But so many of these are just, like, reflected in other stats. So, like, win percentage. Obviously, win percentage is based on the percentage of games that you win. Average game time. So this is we're already in a spot where I don't love average game time as a metric, because look at how much it can differ from team to team. And these aren't like win only or loss only. These are the combined statistics that a lot of people would be looking at. So Team Liquid at 27.4. What you have to ask yourself, what does winning fast mean? Why should I care if a team wins fast or wins slow? The reason why winning fast or winning slow is relevant in League of Legends for betting and DraftKings and stuff like that is because the more time there is in a game, the more opportunities there are for DraftKings points. But just because you are a team that has played quickly or slowly in the past doesn't mean that you're going to change that up against a team. Like they're probably not even aware of these kinds of things when they're playing the game, because a team like Team Liquid, the goal is to win. The goal isn't to get a lot of kills. There's no other way to say it. It sounds so basic, but that's just the truth. And this is kind of what I'm talking about right here. So there are 4 teams with positive win rates over 50%. If you look at the KD, the kill to death ratio of all these teams, they're the only ones that are over 1. So if you're looking for DraftKings scoring, you should be looking for teams that are winning. That's really as far as you have to go. So instead of looking for statistics to tell you which teams are going to score well in wins or score well in losses, you should be asking yourself, why do I think this team can beat this other team? And I don't think that there are many statistics that can explain why an underdog should beat a favorite. That's really the holy grail of statistics. So let's write that down. Holy grail of League of Legends statistics. What stats can tell us? Which stats can identify underdogs who have a chance to win a match? That's really what we should be looking for. And I think this is the kind of thing that's a lot easier to. This is a lot easier to identify in a team's pick bans or in their pick bans or their play style. But those are the kinds of things where you'd have to actually watch it, because there are so many variables in every League of Legends match. So we did average game time. We did this. CKPM, so combined kills per minute. This is kind of an interesting stat to me, but it's not doing anything that I couldn't just realize when I'm watching a match. For example, Counter Logic Gaming. I already knew that Counter Logic Gaming was a team that has longer game times and higher combined kills per minute. There's like it's about the team's tendency. So when Counter Logic Gaming is drafting, a lot of the times they'll draft for late game, and a lot of the time they'll be willing to just stall out a game in hopes that they'll win a dragon fight or win a baron fight. It's a misguided way to approach the game, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the players on CLG aren't highly thought of. They're just not good, and no one really argues otherwise. Actually, there are people who argue otherwise, but it's like they think to themselves, oh, don't worry, 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now, we'll be able to win. But in reality, it's just not true. Like, when you get these gigantic deficits, you're just not going to be able to overcome them. So for a team like Counter Logic Gaming, one thing that they may do when they look at these statistics is say to themselves, on average, we're losing by 1,300 at the 15-minute mark. To me, what a team should do in that situation is pick champions and items that will scale higher than the other team, and then play towards that win condition. The problem with that is that teams, once they have that as their mindset, they aren't able to identify early game champions to bridge the early and mid game into the late game and get to the late game. Playing for late game doesn't mean that you can be passive and not make any plays. It means that that's just the wrong way to approach it. You should always be looking for opportunities to punish the enemy team, and then have the out of scaling higher. It's really tough because I don't have the statistics, like the gold analytics in front of me. But if you look at like the average amount of gold a team earns at the 15-minute mark, then you can start thinking to yourself, how do I spend this gold more efficiently? That's how teams should be spending their time and energy with statistics, not looking at things like gold differential at 15. Like, I know it's an easy stat for people to understand, but there's not much. It just doesn't help. Like, it doesn't help me with any of these teams. If anything, like, this is bad. This is a bad thing for Dignitas and Golden Guardians. It's like they have a positive goal differential, but then they throw away the game. Is it because the teams that they're playing against are really good? Is it because they're drafting heavily for early game and then have no late game? Like, what is this going to tell me? Like, I don't think there's anything instructive in many of these statistics. Let's see, what's GPR? Gold percent rating. Just not. I mean, yes, the teams that are winning are going to have positive gold percent ratings. What is this? What should this mean to me? I guess this is a question that I could just ask. What should it mean to me that Evil Geniuses has a low gold percentage ratio? Like, is there, if you just had the gold percent ratio, is there like an implied win rating? Like, that's kind of what I guess would be significant to try to understand, because it could just show you, it could just tell you about lopsided losses. It's going to distort these things because we have such a small sample size. So that's another reason why you should be a little bit skeptical of these statistics and people who are relying on statistics to tell you who's going to win a match, because teams, according to them, teams that win should continue to win, teams that lose should continue to lose. It's just not. It's not that simple. A lot of the times it is. A lot of the times the favorites are going to win, but that's a different topic. Gold spent difference, like this shouldn't matter. If there was a metric here that said like efficiency of gold spent, so let's write that down. Efficiency of gold spent. So maybe you could do something where like you say the efficiency of all of the items spent, the average efficiency of all items acquired, or something like that. Like, maybe that's a way to find an advantage. But it's not gold spent differential. It's because the team that wins has more gold to spend. Like, it's just crazy to me. Like, there's not even really anything to say about that. Early game rating, I don't understand early game rating enough to give an opinion on this. Mid to late rating, I don't have an opinion on that either. I just don't understand what it's trying to tell me. It's just like a stat that is on Oracle's Elixir. By the way, I got all this from Oracle's Elixir. I like Oracle's Elixir. I think Tim does a good job, and he's like providing something for the League of Legends community. It's just I don't see a lot of the value in it for predicting who will win a match, because in my opinion, I think that's the easiest way to find teams that are going to perform well on DraftKings. First blood rate. First blood rate is probably pretty close to this. Let's see. Equals first blood rate divided by win percentage. So, I mean, you could say... Actually, wait, no. Could you say that? So, Team Liquid gets first blood in 88% of their wins. Once it gets to under 50, that's an inflection point, I guess. So it's like... You'd have to check, like, did TSM get first blood in every single one of their wins? Not sure how valuable this is now that I'm looking at it. But you got to look for these kinds of things, I guess, right? So this is an interesting one. First tower and then first to 3 towers. This is kind of interesting to me. I'm not sure what it really tells us about DraftKings. So let's do equals that divided by that. This is kind of interesting because even though Team Liquid has only gotten first tower 2/3 of the time, they get the first 3 towers 90% of the time. That's surprising. Most of these are very close. A lot of them are identical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are identical. This is interesting. This probably maybe one way to read this right here is like the teams that have a lower first tower percentage than first 3 tower percentage often make strong mid-game plays. And teams that have a lower first to 3 towers compared to their first tower rate make bad mid-game plays or don't know how to navigate the mid-game. But that's assuming they don't make any changes when they go into future matches, right? So, yeah, not extremely interesting to me. Herald percentage. This is something that you can play around, so I don't see why I should care about Herald percentage. For example, in China, in the LPL last year, we had a lot of teams actively looking to trade Rift Herald for Bot Tower because you're acquiring Rift Herald so that you can take a tower more easily. Why should I go up and take Rift Herald, spend all this time and resources, potentially lose out on XP when I can just trade away the Rift Herald, take Bot Tower for free, make it a good trade, and then you have to try to like match the tempo of the second tower push with something else. So I don't think that there's much to learn from Herald percentage. First FD is what? First dragon? First dragon rate. This is another spot where it depends on what your team composition is. If you're actively drafting for mid and late game, you should not be forcing early fights around dragon or forcing early dragons, because if a fight occurs, you're supposed to lose it. So, not sure if that's really very important. And then number of dragons. Dragon, like, this is... I guess it's kind of similar to like an overwhelm mechanic, because the team that's winning a game, it becomes easier for them to secure dragon as the game goes on. So they should have over 50%, all of the winning teams or all the better teams. It doesn't tell me anything about how many dragons an underdog should get, you know, because if an underdog wins a match, their dragon percentage is going to be much higher. Like all these stats could just be thought of in regards to whether or not the team's going to win. Elder percentage doesn't mean much. If you get Elder, you should win the game. If you get the first Baron, I would think that you're going to win most of those games. You could look at something like games where you get the first Baron, you should be winning like every single time, because you should be able to use that Baron to build up a large enough lead to win the game. The other thing is that this could be a noisy statistic because sometimes you get the Baron stolen away from you. If you steal away a Baron, it means that you probably are already at a gold deficit and a positional disadvantage in regards to towers. So not really sure what that's going to tell me. Lane percentage, that's the percentage of lane minions killed. It looks like the winning teams are better and the losing teams are worse. Same thing for jungle. WPM. Average wards placed per minute. Don't care. Control wards purchased per minute. Everybody's about the same, doesn't matter. Average wards cleared per minute. You could say it's better vision control, but if you look, it just doesn't really matter. Yeah, just a lot of stats that I just don't really care about. So that's my rant for today on the LCS and the statistics. Like I said, I'm actively looking for statistics that have some predictive value. So I'm not saying that all stats are garbage. I'm just saying a lot of the stats that we are trying to use right now aren't going to help us identify teams that win. It will help us identify what teams have won. So that's it. Sorry if that makes you angry. But like I said, if anybody has an opinion on why I should have my opinion changed, please explain it to me in a reasonable way. Otherwise, I'm just going to laugh at you. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.